Good afternoon, this is Media Center, Ukraine, Odesa. We are starting our working day, and our first briefing is the report of Oleksiy Chornyi, the head of Humanitarian Coordination Headquarters in Odesa region, covering the year of the activity. I would like to welcome all the residents of Odesa Oblast and the journalists which are here today. Usually we have a monthly report, but since there is the new year, we decided to tell not only about the proceedings in December, but to report the whole information over 2022. I would like to demonstrate our presentation. As you know, the Coordination Humanitarian Headquarters was established following the order of the Odesa Oblast Military Administration and is an auxiliary body. So, what are our tasks? The negotiations with donors about volumes and the terms of delivery of humanitarian aid, dissemination of humanitarian aid, and our main focus are territorial communities. These are different educational institutions, hospitals, boarding schools. We also support military units if donors don't have anything against this. One more task is to coordinate activities of international organizations that are present here in Odesa Oblast and the Ukrainian organization in Odesa Oblast. Briefly about principles of our activities. This is a systematic approach. We have a lot of big tasks, that's why our approach is envisaged the repeated tasks and stability of human resources. The next principle is transparency. We report on the monthly basis, and we also invite journalists to show our activity, and we are always ready to provide our comments. Control, this is the next principle. We keep record of the whole humanitarian aid, and we cooperate with the municipal unit, and we are also responsible for all humanitarian cargos in the Odesa Oblast. We also try to disseminate the humanitarian aid, meeting the needs of our beneficiaries. As for the transparency, we have a range of information partners, including local mass media from the city and from the region, and all international partners who come to us. And we've had numerous newspapers, TV channels, websites from different European countries who interviewed us and prepared stories about activity of our headquarters, and we are very thankful for them for doing this work in such difficult times. As for the amount of volunteers, the amount was decreasing during 2022. We have around 75 volunteers that work with us, including the administrative office and our warehouses. Periodically, we involve additional volunteers for preparing packages of the humanitarian aid that we receive. This includes also the dissemination of these cargos. And we have calculated that more than 560 volunteers was involved with the activity of our headquarters in 2020. On this graph you can see the dynamics. The biggest amount of volunteers we had in May, and in December we have around 91 volunteers who were involved in our activities. These are the photos of our volunteers. We also have the hotline for 2020, we received more than 10,000 requests. These are different questions with regard to social payments, registration of IDPs, humanitarian aid, communal services, the issues related to operations and work of different institutions who are supposed to support people. We also receive claims from the residents with regard to work of the city and oblast authorities. And we have now new options. This is the thank you option. We received more than 122 messages with gratitude. Here you can also see the information about people addressing us. These are residents of Odesa, IDPs, pensioners, and we also have some calls abroad. We, additionally to the main hotline, have 3 specialized hotlines. These are the line for servicemen, and we have received starting from 24th April 25 claims, and only 28 were anonymous. We provide this information to the Southern Command for them to monitor the situation. We have the hotline for IDPs. We received 3,023 requests with regard to the status, the possibility of employment, accommodation, humanitarian aid, issuing of the documents, and other issues. And we have a separate hotline for the residents of Odesa that was created on the 24th of May, because most people are staying in the city, and if we can see the dynamics of IDPs, more than half of them stay in Odesa. One of the main tasks of our headquarters involved humanitarian aid. During this period, we have received more than 8,233 ballots, including 6,189 pallets with food, including food packages, 1,398 ballots with the hygiene and the household goods and also the children products, and 646 pallets with clothes and bed linen and pillows. This is what we received in 2022. The weight of these pallets varies from 500 to 1,500 kilos. So you can just calculate the volumes expressed in kilos. These are the pictures to demonstrate how these pallets look. As for our partners, we are very thankful to all donors who are in constant cooperation with us. And we can see that the UN agencies are very active, including the agencies with whom we have established the closest contact, including the World Food Programme, UNICEF, UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency, OCHA, the UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, and the International Organization for Migration, IOM. These are 5 agents who are our constant partners. We receive information from them and we agree our plans for the upcoming periods. In December, we had 250 boilers that we received from UNICEF. That was the latest delivery. Before that, we received personal care goods that were provided to hospitals. 250 boilers were equally disseminated all over Odesa region. including territorial communities, social institutions. These are school, boarding schools. So we have disseminated all boilers, and we're expecting for the next supply of the boilers because there is still a need in this. We have a very strong cooperation with the World Food Program. We started receiving cargoes from them in summer, and you can see that in 2022 we received 1,195,000 tons of wheat, 263 tons of peas, 559 tons of rice, and 83.5 tons of vegetable oil. We used all these products to create 150,000 food packages that we provided to the residents of Odesa Oblast and IDPs. It is very important for us not to classify the categories of our beneficiaries because we have the vulnerable people in Odesa Oblast and also those people who have come to the Odesa Oblast to flee the war. There is a range of NGOs that are also very active in our oblast. One of the first organization is acted that started operating here around April. So this organization prepares accommodation for IDPs, they renovate premises, they provide equipment, personal care goods, etc. There are two more organizations that include Intersource and the Doctors Without Borders organization, Israel Aid, HEX, Nonviolent Peace Force, and Goods for Good, as well as other organizations. These are the main NGOs that you can see now on this slide. But in generally, there are more than 30 international organizations in our regions that all the time visit the coordination meeting. They exchange messages with us. They are ready to answer questions and offer their support. Not in all cases we are able to agree with respect to urgent needs, but we can see that international organizations try to support us as much as they can. They also have limited resources, and unfortunately we have to establish priorities all the time to support those organizations and institutions that require this support most. One of the latest big products over the last 2 months was related to generators. This week we have received a big consignment from the United Arab Emirates with the support of the President of the Office of President and the UAM. Odesa Oblast received 208 generators that were equally disseminated between beneficiaries. These are regional administrations and different departments. We received these generators during 2 days, and we have disseminated them already. The Odesa State Administration was responsible for coordinating this project, and we were responsible for unloading and disseminating these generators. We have received these generators, 23 generators from IRIX. This is USAID agency, and we are disseminating these generators right now. We are waiting for more consignments, and we are also thankful to Israel Aid that provided 20 generators, and also the Republic of Poland, Constanza, and other partners who support us in providing generators to our institutions. A bit more than 600 pallets with the products, with the medical products that were provided to Odesa Oblast Children Clinical Hospital, and through this hospital we disseminated these medical products to different hospitals and clinics of our oblast. We are well aware of where such medical aid is disseminated. So at first we were responsible directly for administration, but now the healthcare department is responsible for this work. One of the main tasks is to coordinate activities of different institutions, including the self-governance authorities, the representatives of the Odesa regional administration, international organizations, and local organizations. To coordinate this work, we regularly hold meetings in different formats to inform about the needs that we have in our oblast and to agree the next consignments and discuss possible projects and possible areas of implementation of such projects. All the time, we emphasize the need to increase the adjustment of the vulnerable population, including psychological, social support, employment, the establishment of representative bodies for such people, and other issues. Within our coordination, the newly appointed coordinator of the UN system, Dennis Brown, visited our headquarters as soon as she was appointed. We discussed the necessity and the efficiency of cooperation with the UN agency, and we hope that at the beginning of this year we will have one more meeting to discuss how we can improve the possibility of receiving grants for Ukrainian organizations to increase efficiency of their operations. This is one of the biggest issues that we can see. 95% of all funds are received by international organizations, and those Ukrainian NGOs that have been involved in this work since the first days of war and who are responsible and trustworthy, due to different bureaucratic burdens, are unable to receive these funds. So we raised the issue all the time. We had the Vice Minister, Ms. Irina Vereshchuk. We discussed this issue with her. She understands us well, and we hope that together with governmental authorities will be able to persuade donors that Ukrainian organizations can also be beneficiaries of such aid. And we are not talking about our headquarters now, but about all the colleagues working in the Odesa Oblast. The next part of my presentation is dedicated to different types of activities, because we not only accept and disseminate humanitarian aid, but we also work with the projects that are important not only in our region but in the neighboring oblasts. There is a range of interesting events that we have not only on the that we've had not only on the territory of our oblast. For example, as soon there was the issue of water supply in Mykolaiv Oblast, we were able to deliver 20 tons of potable water to Mykolaiv using the stocks that we had on our warehouses. Now the situation in Mykolaiv is more or less stable. There is technical water, and we have provided a lot of contacts of international organizations to our colleagues from Mykolaiv coordination headquarters to establish filters in different facilities, and also the establishment of artesian wells. So the problem is not that urgent as it was before, and we are glad that our neighbors were able to solve these issues. Kherson Oblast is one more oblast that we constantly support. We have sent 4 wagons of humanitarian support even when the part of the oblast was occupied, when only a few villages were under control of Ukraine. But back then we were able to organize 4 wagons of humanitarian aid. We sent that train to Kryvyi Rih, and from there this aid was disseminated among people who were evacuated from the Kherson Oblast and those who stayed in neighboring oblasts, including the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. As soon as a part of Kherson Oblast was liberated, we prepared 4 more trucks that we sent to Novoalexandrivka, Belozerska communities and in the city of Kherson. For Kherson, we prepared 1,280 food packages. We visited the city on the 26th of November. There were problems with communication, water supply and heating. So we unloaded everything that we brought by ourselves, thus helping our neighbors. We also organized, responding to the request of the head of the Odesa Regional Administration of Kherson Oblast, Mr. Yanushevich, who told us about lack of people who could implement humanitarian mission to provide support on the spot. Responding to this request, we organized a pilot project, including 11 persons from Odesa Oblast and from Kyiv Oblast, including 2 foreign citizens from the UK, from the United States, and 7 more volunteers joined us from the city of Kherson. They stayed in Kherson from the 21st to the 30th of December and helped unloading humanitarian aid, preparing food packages, disseminating water, providing information to locals about evacuation. For example, they helped to evacuate people with disabilities, just literally in their arms. They took people from the block of flats and helped them to evacuate to Khmelnytsky Oblast. Because back then that was the Khmelnytsky Oblast that accommodated such people. And there were different representatives of local communities from the village of Antonievka and Korabelny Council. Starting from the 1st of February, we are planning to have one more volunteer mission that will involve people all over Ukraine. So this is kind of the second part of volunteers that will be able to help the city on the spot. A lot of people still stay in Kherson. This is around 60,000 to 70,000 people, mainly retired people and people with disabilities. So we need people who will be able to support these people, to provide them personal care products, food, etc. And there is a lack of such people in Kherson. That's why we are going to announce this mission, and everyone who wants will be able to join us. We hope that we will be able to have the bigger group of volunteers who will be work there not for 10 days, but from 1 month to 3 months. We've discussed this issue with the volunteers from the first group, and they are ready to head the group and to visit Kherson in February once more. As for our meetings with different organizations, I'm not going to take much of your time. We have regular meetings. For example, in December last year, we had the meeting of more than 100 people. We organized meetings with the departments of the State Regional Administration. We had representatives of Health Department, Education Department, Children Care Service, the Employment Center, and other representatives. Apart from that, we had some more interesting meetings. For example, the Metropolitan of Kyiv and the Hall of Rus Epiphany visited us, and also the representative of Greek Catholic Church, the Father Svetoslav. So we had two separate meetings. The religious topic is not typical for us, but for people during war, it is very important to support their morale and their belief and faith in victory. A lot of people attended the meetings with the representatives of two leading religions in Ukraine. And we are thankful for our headquarters to be chosen as the premises for these meetings. Some more important projects, for example, non-violence. Peace organized the conference for all volunteers. We participated in this meeting. We answered the questions. We also had the vacancies fair together with the organization which is named Pro-Rozvitok, Pro-Development. It was in June, if I'm not mistaken. A lot of 200 people participated in this event. And after that day, we have been constantly focusing on the issue of employment for people, and we are going to organize adjustment center that will allow to help people from Odesa Oblast and IDPs find jobs. We had a range of events beyond Ukraine. For example, our representative visited the Netherlands, the Mysteryland Festival, presenting the Ukrainian cuisine, and we were able to earn some money for Humanitarian headquarters. Our delegation also visited Germany to participate in Christmas fair. And there was one more important project involving 25 children from Odesa Oblast, who went to Poland, to the city of Spala, for recreation activities. There is a range of interesting activities to support Ukrainian culture. We provide our premises for the Speaking Ukrainian Club of the project Yedini, United. People can attend classes to improve their knowledge of Ukrainian language. It is very important for us because we have been supporting the development of Ukrainian culture, and now other participants of our headquarters speak Ukrainian not only during our business meetings but on the everyday basis. And this is quite an important achievement. We also organize meetings of the people impacted by war, primarily IDPs. We have the experience of group communication. This is exchange of experience, coaching. We have named this live communications, and we hope that with the support of the Adjustment or Adaptation Center, we will be able to continue such meetings, because people can share not only their problems, but the experience of solving different issues. They get acquainted, and in the future we can see that this communication is ongoing. And after the meeting, a lot of children visited the Dolphinarium. This is one of the projects that we implemented. These were the children of IDPs who are for the first time in Odesa, and the guests of our oblast were able to visit Dolphinarium in Odesa. As for the transportation and logistics, now this is the biggest issue for us, because we don't have our own vehicles, and the Odesa Regional Administration cannot provide us with such. The private companies provide their vehicles, their means of transportation to us, and we hope that after this report we will be able to list all Ukrainian businesses who have supported us with the means of transportation, including several large logistics companies who provided trucks free of charge. But you can see that the amount of the trucks have been decreasing. That's why we have some problems with the shipping goods. And we address now our beneficiaries, territorial communities, for them to take cargoes on their own, because we don't have the opportunity to send everything on our own. We're also supported by the Ukrainian railway company Ukrzaliznytsia, who sent cargoes and consignments to Odesa Oblast and including Podils, Korezdina, so to the towns where there are railway stations. In 2022, we have sent more than 6,000 pallets of humanitarian aid, including 600 pallets of the different medical products. So these are mainly food products, but also goods for children, personal care goods, textile, and clothes. As for the warehouses, we have now 2 main warehouses in the city. We also have partner warehouses in all rayons of Odesa Oblast and the headquarters that coordinate their activities. Their warehouses in territorial communities, and we have 1 partner warehouse in Romania, but we think that it won't be operative in the nearest future because most donors, they don't need to transit their goods anymore through Romania. They send them directly to Odesa Oblast. As for the stocks we have now, we have more than 2,000 pallets of humanitarian aid, including 408 pallets with clothes and textile, 312 pallets with the goods for children, hygiene goods, household goods, and 1,309 food pallets. We plan that we will be able to more quickly order the products that we need. We will expedite the shipping process and will be able to receive more humanitarian aid. Important information about the amount of IDPs that has been constantly increasing. As for 28th of December, we had more than 137,000 of IDPs. There was the increased wave of IDPs from the 11th of November, from the day when Kherson was liberated. People voluntarily came to Odessa, and we can see that more than 15,000 of people registered in our oblast for a month and a half. The process is ongoing, and we understand that with the liberation of new territories, especially in the southern part of our country, we should expect more people who will come to Odessa, because Odessa Oblast was not that damaged by hostilities as Mykolaiv Oblast, so we will continue registering people. But in parallel, we are initiating the process to verify the IDPs, because some people who registered in April or in summer, they went to other regions or abroad. That's why we should verify the statistics, we should verify the actual presence of these people on the territory of our oblast, and here we're supported by our colleagues from communities, from Hromadas. And in April we had 65,000 people, and now in December you can see the number of 137,000 of IDPs. This is not the biggest number comparing to other oblasts, but for Odesa Oblast this amount is quite significant because there are no collective accommodation places for these people. We cannot use our recreation bases and hotels because most of them can operate only in summer and they don't have a heating system. That's why when it comes to accommodating a large number of people, we always have some issues with this. Last year, we received more than 6,000 beds from different donors, including mattresses, pillows, linen, blankets. We provided all these things to territorial communities for them to organize the accommodation centers for IDPs. In October and in January, we visited such collective centers to learn about the problems of people and the issues the organizations accommodating IDPs faced. We also organized coordinated meetings to discuss the aid we need for winter. We continue receiving heaters, generators, as I've already mentioned before, winter clothes, and we try to provide all these to the people impacted by war as soon as possible. More than 83,000 people received humanitarian aid over the last months. We have the information for different rayons provided by the Odesa military organization. This is the statistics for December, and we have the statistics for the whole year. We don't have information for March, but in April we started recording the numbers. And we can say that for the last year, we provided humanitarian aid 626,612 times. So we are not talking about the number of people, we are talking about the number of times, because some people can receive humanitarian aid several times. You can see an increased dynamics. And of course it is directly related to what we can provide, and you can see a significant decline in August, but then we can trace the significant increase, and this is related to the number of people arriving to our oblast. This aid includes food packages. In December, we were able to provide the second part of food packages, 50,000, to the to rayons of our oblast. And on the next slide, you can see one of the big projects of last year. It was related to the support of Mykolaiv Oblast. During the period, we were ready to accumulate on our warehouses through the public procurement and through the humanitarian aid, 249,000 food packages. The product has been finalized because Mykolaiv Oblast is fully liberated now. The products that remained on our warehouses and are used to meet needs of the residents of Odesa Oblast. And we prepared more than 50,000 of packages over the last month to disseminate them in January. And the latest important issue related to the support of the military. This is not our direct task because, unfortunately, most donors don't agree to support the military due to their internal policies. We provided more than 1,000 armored vests, food packages, batteries, gas stoves, sleeping bags, drones, laptops, the trench candles, a lot of warm clothes, thermals, hats, potable water, cars. So when donors don't have anything against supporting the servicemen, and all the time we ask them about this, we provide to the military units the products that we have. We understand that perhaps this is not enough, but we try to make our contribution in supplying our military with everything they need. This is all generally with terms of the reporting, and we also have the plans for the future. We are planning to continue developing the NGO. We are planning to obtain grants to develop the projects, including the adaptation center that we are going to launch in the end of February or in March. And we also think that it is necessary to publish the whole list of the institutions and the lists of the products they received from us for the last month. So we are now preparing this information, and by the end of the next week we are going to publish this information on our website. The information covering the whole last year. So you will be able, our beneficiaries, and what they received from us. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for such a detailed report. Do we have any questions? Yes. Перший міський. The floor is yours. Vitaly Harnov, Перший міський. I have a question about accommodation for IDPs. What are the plans for this year? You mentioned about collective centers for IDPs, and as far as I understand, there are still issues with the accommodation of such people. What changes are expected this year? And do you plan, are there plans to partially compensate the accommodation for these people? You've actually answered your question. We can see that in the collective centers, there are not so many people as statistics shows for the whole oblast. And we have much less people in collective centers. Most people, they rent apartments. That's why during the previous year, we brought this to the attention of our donors abroad, because they wanted us to show dormitories of such IDPs. But at first we didn't understand why they kept asking us about that. But then we understood that all over the world there is the general practice of such people, of refugees, living in these collective centers. But we don't have the proper conditions for such centers in Odesa Oblast. That's why people choose to rent their own apartments. That's why we started explaining our donors that people that we need funds to renovate the premises for the rent. And we know that there are plans for the plans this year. We know that around it is planned to support around 27,000 of such families. Perhaps these are everyone who needs support now. And one more clarification. You mentioned generators. The generators that you receive. What is the amount of such generators and where they are sent further on? As for the generators, we coordinate this issue with the state regional administration, because they can speak about the numbers the oblast needs. The amount of 20 generators from Israel that our headquarters received were sent to invincibility centers, 10 of them, and 10 were sent to territorial communities. We also received generators from IREX, a program. This is from USAID. We also received the generators from Poland. And the latest big consignment include 280 generators from the United Arab Emirates. This is a joint project that is coordinated by the UAIM, the Office of the President, and the Foundation of Public Property. But we don't have the detailed information on this, because this works was coordinated by the Odesa Oblast Military Administration, and one of the deputy heads of this administration is responsible for preparing a list of needs with the priorities. As soon as the new consignment is received, the priority organizations receive these generators. These are not that powerful generators from 3 to 6 kilowatts. And perhaps you saw in the news that 3 big generators were provided by the UN for the Odesa Oblast. This is what we know. and this is where we were involved in shipping. Good afternoon, Anatoly Kosin, Ukrainian Media Center, Odesa. I have the following question. You've mentioned that 95% of grant funds for humanitarian aid are received by international organizations. You wanted to change these dynamics this year. But there is at least 5% of our organizations who receive these funds. Can you provide more details about these NGOs? This is an approximate number, around 95%. So these are organizations that have been working with the UN agency since 2014. These organizations have been verified. First, they received small grants, but then the amount was gradually increased. But unfortunately, we have a few such organizations, and I know about 2 such NGOs in Odesa Oblast. Other organizations that had no experience of working with international grants and donors are not that experienced. And one of the conditions of the Ukrainian humanitarian headquarters is for the organization to be at least 3 years and to have the experience of receiving support of other donors in the past. And just a few organizations in Odessa have such experience. And we keep focusing on this because Ukrainian organizations, they keep working even without these funds, and they will continue their operations and their activities, but they can increase their efficiency if they have additional support, which is our objective. So there is some bureaucratic issues in the policies of our donors, and it is related to verification, transparency, and integrity procedures. But we don't have so much time for these procedures to be verified. We don't have this time. And that's why we try to advocate at least Odessa organizations. And we actually experience this by ourselves. We have established the legal entity, but the last year we were not able to receive any financial support. All our work was financed by the Ukrainian philanthropists, Ukrainian businesses, and the money provided by the state regional administration. And in November, we were able to hire at least a small part of our volunteers, 30 persons from 506 that were involved in the operation of our headquarters. But with this team, we can continue our systematic work. Oleksiy, I have the clarification. Can you name these 2 organizations that we've mentioned? And the question to your NGO. So you decided to establish the NGO despite the fact that international donors are not ready to work with the organizations that are established just after the beginning of the war. So what is your objective? What is your strategy? I'm now talking mainly about the UN, because the UN is the biggest donor, and almost all international organizations who are present here, at least partially, receive funds from the United Nations. Why have we decided to establish a legal person for our organization, to start the legitimization process of our procedures? And at least we will need we hope that the rules will be simplified, and we will be able at least to show the aid that was provided to us during last year, not during last 3 years, as it is required. As for organizations, the 10th of April and Vera Nadia Lubov, which is FACE, Trust and Hope. So these are 2 organizations that can receive international grants. We are now negotiating the issue with 1 more organization, and we have now agreements in the form of the annual contract to support one of the NGO in our oblast and in Mykolaiv Oblast. As soon as we will successfully finalize negotiations, we will be ready to share this news. Thank you for your attention. Thank you. That was the briefing of Oleksiy Chornyi, head of the Coordination Humanitarian Headquarters of Odesa region. We are going to have our next briefing at 1 p.m. We will have German volunteers from one of the charitable organizations that support refugees and IDPs. So stay tuned.